So Brave Rival are a UK Blues Award nominated bands with 5 awards: Best Band, Best Album, Best Instrumentalist and Best Vocalist. Their Kickstarter for album 2 was hit within 48 hours. So the target was 15k and overall they made 26.8k.
Yeah.
Incredible. The band have been featured in classic rock magazines, Hot List. They are a Joe Bonnamassa endorsed band, which we will come back to later, by the way. They have played the Isle of Wight Festival, Victorious Festival, and Made of Stone Festival. They've played in Norway. They're soon to play in Czech Republic, Romania, and Germany. I didn't know about Romania until I just read that out loud. They've sold out shows across the country, and they played the biggest headline show in Portsmouth at the end of 2023 at the Wedgwood Rooms, and they came in at number 26 on the UK Independent Blues Broadcasters Association charts for 2023. Whew!
We are the Weekend Rockstars coming at you from Sheeptown, England.
Hey guys, welcome to the party. We are the Weekend Rockstars, the music podcast that gets into the nitty gritty, the in between of being a musician. You know, so many of us musicians, we had lessons early on teaching us how to play guitar, teaching us how to play drums, how to sing, maybe even how to write a song, but no one really teaches you how to book a gig. No one teaches you how to make a set list. So this is the podcast for you if you're wondering how on earth do I approach any of that. So today is going to be a really special podcast, mostly because it's our first one back after 3 years, Billy. It's been
3 years.
3 years.
3 years.
Yeah. All right. So in case you're new, the Weekend Rockstars podcast, we started it actually on my 29th birthday. We did our first podcast and it was a lot of fun, and we ran it for several months, and eventually we got put into another lockdown, didn't we? And so we were shut down for a while, and so by the time we could, meet back up again and start doing things, about like 4 or 5 months had passed, and we'd both kind of just moved on from the idea. But in the time since that last podcast and this one, a lot has changed for my co-host. So firstly, you got married last year.
I did. I'm a married man.
You're a married man,
Yeah.
hitched. And that was great. Naturally, I was best man.
Didn't I ask you to be best man that day of that first podcast?
Do you know what? Maybe you did. I hadn't thought of that.
I think I fucking did,
Wow.
Wow.
Okay. Man, there's some real history.
No history in these walls.
These walls, if they could talk. But yeah, so Billy, I mean, you've got married, which is amazing, and it was a beautiful wedding. And at the wedding, you had your band, who are the topic of today's video, Brave Rival, playing. What was it like to have your bands play at your wedding like that? What did that mean for you?
That felt like a really special moment, I guess. Like, obviously the wedding's not about me; it's about two families coming together and all that. But like, I always wanted my band to play at my wedding, even before I knew Sarah,
Yeah.
And it didn't matter what band it was at the time. I was always going to be in a band. So in fact, I wanted to try and get more than just Brave Rival playing, but it didn't really come to pass, I guess. But I did get Paul Muir up from Albany Down.
I was going to say, so my favourite moment from seeing like a live band last year, because obviously like going around gigging, I see a lot of different acts, was seeing you with Brave Rival and Paul Muir at your wedding do a cover of Whole Lot of Love by Led Zeppelin. It's the best version of Whole Lot of Love I've ever seen live, the best cover. And it was just really amazing, like the that come down moment, in the bridge of the song.
Psychedelic bit.
It was really, really cool.
Yeah.
And so the other big thing that's obviously changed since our old podcasting days is that Brave Rival has gone from strength to strength. And so today's podcast is dedicated to talking about Brave Rival and all the achievements you guys have had over the year, how you've grown. And I think it would be a really good thing for people who are aspiring musicians who are starting out, whether it's in a blues band or otherwise, to hear your story so far. I mean, the story's not finished yet, but like you're in media res, you're in the middle of it, and it's an exciting place. And so I first saw Brave Rival play and I believe this was the first time. It was the day before we went back into lockdown.
Yeah.
So it would have been, I think, Halloween 2020, and you played in Fleet.
It was, it was something like that, yeah.
Yeah.
So around that time of year in Fleet.
Yeah. And it was a very strange show because of COVID rules, everyone was sat on their little individual tables.
The little islands.
They're all islands that were evenly spaced out. Like the neat freak in me was like appreciating how evenly, everything was spaced out.
People were not allowed to cheer.
Yeah.
Otherwise, they might spread their germs with their mouths.
No one was allowed to sing along or go over to another table.
Yeah.
It was very odd, but the thing I felt watching you guys then versus what I felt watching you guys play at the Thameside Brewery last year was that when you were playing in 2020, it kind of felt like 5 really good musicians playing some really good songs. Mm-hmm. But to me, it just didn't feel like it was like the rock and roll bands yet. Yeah. But when I saw you guys play last year, at the wedding, then also at Thameside Brewery, like it felt like you guys, you could feel that you'd been on the road together, that you'd really coalesced, that you'd really come together. You were really gelling in all the different areas. Like it was just felt like the true rock and roll experience. And me and my friend were sat in the crowds watching, and we were just talking in between songs. And I was just like, man, like they've grown so much, they've developed in all these ways, and I'm just so proud of you.
Oh, thank you.
So anyway, so that's enough of me bigging you up. Now we're going to get to the actual list of achievements. So I asked Billy to send me a list of all Brave Rivals achievements, and I'm sure he's being modest. I'm sure there's even more than this, but so let me read out the list of achievements. So Brave Rival are a UK Blues Award nominated bands with 5 awards: Best Band, Best Album, Best Instrumentalist, and Best Vocalist. Their Kickstarter for album 2 was hit within 48 hours. So the target was 15k, and overall they made 26.8k.
Yeah.
Incredible. The band have been featured in classic rock magazines, Hot List. They are a Joe Bonnamassa endorsed band, which we will come back to later, by the way. They have played the Isle of Wight Festival, Victorious Festival, and Made of Stone Festival. They've played in Norway. They're soon to play the Czech Republic, Romania, and Germany. I didn't know about Romania until I just read that out loud. They've sold out shows across the country, and they played the biggest headline show in Portsmouth at the end of 2023 at the Wedgwood Rooms, and they came in at number 26 on the UK Independent Blues Broadcasters Association charts for 2023. Whew, wow. Well, there we go. That is quite a list. How do you feel with me reading all that out? Is it exhausting to hear? Think, whoa, or does it feel great?
I just feel really proud of my bandmates and everything that's happened in the last couple of years, I guess. Like, it's just been crazy. Yeah.
It's crazy indeed. So we're going to jump into the nitty-gritty now and go back in time a little bit. So first question, Billy, can you remember Brave Rivals' first gig? And if you can, what was that like?
I can remember Brave Rivals. I can remember Brave Rivals' first gig. Sorry, my tongue went a bit twisted there. I went to the dentist today, listeners, if you didn't know. But yes, our first gig was in Portsmouth at the this venue on the pier. I can't remember what it's called now, but basically it was like this little festival thing that someone was putting on, and it was with the old lineup. So it was when we had Matt on guitar, Andy on keys, and Jacob on the saxophone, Don on the drums, myself on bass, and Chloe and Lindsay on the vocals. And that gig sticks out in my memories for being obviously the first Brave Rival gig, first place we ever played, like Come Down as a band live and things like that. But also it was that evening where my wife told me that she loves me.
For the first time?
For the first time, yes.
Wow. Yeah. Okay, makes that gig extra special.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's like intertwined memories there.
So what was the audience response at that gig? Can you remember that?
Well, we played to about 5 men and 5 dogs, but
It was one of those.
that sounds really rude. It wasn't obviously like an amazing, like, huge crowd or anything, because we were just starting out, and I think we were first on. So it was mostly, I feel like we played to like our partners and a few friends from Portsmouth and that. So it was a fun gig. It was almost like a little half-hour jam that we did, basically, in terms of a few songs that we had knocking about at the time. There is footage out there of this gig somewhere.
Yeah.
And you go back and watch it now, and you can see how the band, I would say, is very different to how it is now. I guess, like you're saying, like, we're not road worn yet. We're not. I wouldn't say we're like as tight as we are now. We played very differently. We played almost rootsy to the rock that we kind of are known for now.
Okay.
Yeah, it was a very different kind of vibe.
Okay. So that was your first gig, but can you remember the first show you played as a band, whether it was with that lineup or the new lineup where Ed joined the band, where it just felt really electric and you really felt like you were making fans out of the audience?
Yeah, I mean, we were making fans with that lineup. We got one of our biggest fans, Colin. He is one of our, fans that's been with us since the very beginning. He saw us with that lineup supporting the Billy Walton band, and he's been with us ever since. So we picked up, fans around that era. But I would say the first time I can remember where it was like, this is right, was when, after Ed had joined the band, which was in the summer of 2019, we did a gig at the Boom Boom Club in Sutton.
Okay.
And that gig, I can't remember if we were doing, I think we were supporting Catfish. Yeah, it was supporting Catfish. And I just remember playing, I remember in the middle of the show thinking, this is the, this is right. This is where we belong. This is where, we're playing to this packed room, and you could tell that the audience was loving it. We were loving it. We're feeding off of each other, not literally, obviously, but the
band of vampires.
The energy's flowing, both ways, and I just remember thinking, this is brilliant. This is what we want to be doing. This is the right direction. This is the right band. The right time, right everything. So. Yeah, it's just I remember that vividly, that moment on that stage. Yeah.
Okay, so there was a big departure from the band before and the band after Ed.
Yeah, because like when Matt and Andy and Jacob left the original lineup, it was basically the band was not over, but it was like put on hiatus for a few months. But we still had this one gig booked at Victorious Festival.
Okay.
And that was in 2019, to the end of August 2019. We had this one gig booked, and obviously Donna and I were with Ed in Fuzzwalker, and I can't remember I think he asked us and Lindsay and Chloe if he could try out for the band, and Lindsay wasn't sure. She thought he was too shreddy, I guess.
Yeah.
But once he did a rehearsal and we did the gig, it was clear that he was right for the band.
Yeah.
It made things slightly heavier. It made things slightly rockier, but the way that we all gelled together was much more cohesive. And it just, I think, from obviously my and Donna's connection, but then with Ed, we'd already worked with Ed for like a year or 2 years. I can't remember how many years it was, but say 2 years. We were already quite tight, so it just helped in that regard. And the rest, as they say, is history.
Yeah. So with the band getting fans, like going along to your gig last year at the Thameside Brewery, there are so many people there that I didn't know wearing Brave Rival t-shirts and crowding around the merch stall at the end.
Shout out to the Bravians.
Yeah, the Bravians, as they're called. And so when did it start to get to that point where you're starting to see familiar faces around? So you start building more fans when Ed joins the band. But is it 2019 or is it post lockdown when it starts to really grow?
I would say so. Yeah, 2020 we did our first big headline show at the Echo Hotel Music Club in Hook, which is where we recorded the first live album. And even then, I remember we were starting to see familiar faces come to our gigs, people that we still see today, and we love them dearly. And I think we also did a gig not long after that. This was right before lockdown happened. We did a gig at the Tuesday Night Music Club in Coulston, southeast London, and they have a very regular group of people that go to that venue every week for their fix of Tuesday night music.
Yeah.
And a lot of those people come to our shows, and we start seeing regular faces. But then I'd say even like as we started expanding into other areas of the country, we've started noticing we've got regular fans in, say, the Midlands, regular fans up in the Northeast, regular fans in just other parts of the country. So we're getting these pockets of Bravians. Yeah.
Pockets of Bravians.
Yeah.
Is that a real word, Bravian? Or is it a word you guys have coined?
I don't know. I don't know if we coined it or not. We'd have to look it up.
I'm going to see quickly. I'm going to look it up. Little slight side.
It's like everyone needs a name for their fan group, don't they? So
yeah.
So we kind of went with Bravians.
Was Rivals ever popped up, or did you think that would?
It's too. I think that's too. Maybe not unique enough, like the Rivals.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I've just looked up the word Bravian on dictionary.com.
Right.
And it says, no results found for Bravian. Did you mean Brian?
Brian.
Top marks for not trying.
Yeah.
Okay. Righto. So you start getting regular people coming along.
Yeah.
What do you think it is that's bringing the people back? Because we've both been in bands before where it's just not clicking with a wider audience. People aren't coming back. You are playing year after year to empty rooms. But something clicked with people about this band that started bringing them back.
Yeah.
What do you think that was? Was it that you were just really great live? Or was there something else? What do you think?
I think it's so I know I don't want to obviously blow my own horn, but I know we're really great live.
Yeah.
But I don't think it's just that. I think it's the fact that the girls, Chloe and Lindsay, have a really they have a way of connecting with almost everyone in the room. And sometimes I'm thinking, God, they're really going on a bit. But no, but for real, they are connecting with the audience. They are telling stories about their songs, and it's connecting with people on a personal level. And before and after shows, they're talking to anyone that wants to talk to them. They're making friends with them. We're all about connecting with the fan base and taking them on the journey with us, And I think that's where it's all garnered the support from everyone, really. They want us to do well, and we want to do well for them. So it's like a symbiotic relationship in that way, I guess.
I like that. So you guys you're really good live, and I can definitely vouch for that. But it's at the end of the show, you've got Lindsay and Chloe going up and talking to people and making connections that way, being personable. That's been a big part of it.
To be fair, we all do that after the shows.
You'll do it,
all five of us are at the merch desk, and we're all chatting away to people. But I think during the show as well, the girls are really good at making a connection, a personal connection with everyone that they can in the room.
Yeah. Do you have a favourite interaction, or an interaction that really stands out to you with a fan at the merch stall afterwards?
Favourite? none that are jumping out to me, I guess. There's some fans that trying to think. No, nothing really is coming to mind.
Okay.
Yeah.
Has there ever been a fan that's gone gone above, the usual kind of like coming over and buying a T-shirt, like they've given you guys like just extra, money or attention or affection or whatever?
We definitely, we have fans that are obviously supporting us on Patreon and that financially, which is amazing. Yeah. We love them so much, but yeah, we also have fans that do want to help us. Like for example, we got one fan that brought us this new sign for our merch stand.
Oh yeah,
a neon purple sign, and it's just like it's so amazing. It's like he didn't have to do that, but he just wants to help us, and it's just like what a dude.
That's really amazing.
Yeah.
Like neon signs, they're not cheap.
No.
I believe like they cost a bit of money, so that's really lovely.
Yeah.
Okay, and so you're making connections with people, and it's growing and growing. Did like the popularity of the band and like the fact it was growing and more people were coming back, did that surprise you at all, or did it feel just natural, you were just going along for the ride?
In some ways it has surprised me, like because I've obviously been in bands in this genre before, and we had a fan base, but I don't think we never had a fan base like this really. So it's always very humbling and very, I'm just really grateful that everyone really digs it, really,
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's cool, man. And so you're going around, you're playing gigs, you're making connections with people, and then at some point it starts to get to, it grows beyond that, because now you've got Joe Bonnamassa publicly saying he really likes your band. How do you go from the band that's going around playing the blues clubs, making connections to people, to getting Joe Bonamassa's attention? What's the jump there?
Well, I mean, a lot of that comes down to, at the time we were working with a really great PR agent from Noble PR, and I guess he also does Bonamassa's PR as well, so obviously he showed Bonnamassa our music, and Bonnamassa liked it enough to play on his radio show, which was like amazing. And he said on the show like he's really digging what these cats are up to, and he said that it's his favorite discovery that year, and it's really amazing to hear him say that. And for us, that's just so helpful, because we can then whack that quote on a poster and get people's attention that might not have heard of us before.
Yeah. And so obviously publicly you told, I remember when it happened, you told me personally over text, and I was like, wow, that's really cool. But then obviously you go public and say, hey, look, Joe Bonamassa's said this about you. Did that have a wider impact on your fan base or on people in general? Did that help you get more shows? What did that do for you guys, if anything?
It's hard to quantify, I guess, because like it's obviously it's on the post. It's been on a lot of the posters since that happened. So I guess like promoters might see our list of gigs, which is fairly extensive, especially for last year, in a classic rock magazine ad, and then they see the quote maybe, and then that might pique their interest to say, oh, I should book this band as well. So definitely, I'm sure they've seen that ad and they've then got in touch with our agent to book us. Like that's probably happened. And then likewise, hopefully someone that's never heard of us has probably seen that ad, seen that quote, and has checked us out on Spotify or whatever and bought a ticket to a show.
Yeah. So we obviously talked about talking to fans at the merch desk. Have you had an interaction with a fan at the merch desk who said, I discovered you guys online?
We've had people come up to us that have discovered us in all sorts of ways.
Okay.
So one of my favourite examples is a guy heard us on get played on Planet Rock Radio. I think it was just the Wyatt Wendell's show, which is like their introducing show. He heard our song, and apparently he immediately had to pull over and look us up.
Wow.
Did that, found that we were playing in Hull like that week, and then drove hours to the Hull gig to come see us play.
Fantastic.
And that's I think he told us that at the merch stand. So
okay.
And then we've had people that have come up to us after a gig that have seen us, seen the ads in Classic Rock magazine, or they saw a feature or a review of us in Classic Rock magazine. So those sort of things have brought people in. Online as well, like online ads that get put on Facebook, they help as well. Spread the word, spread the Bravian word. Yeah.
So when did you as we said, you were going around gigging and making connections with people that way? At what point do you start going, right, it's now time to bring in the big guns? Sorry, that came out weird. The big guns. And start, using like a PR agency. At what point do you do that? Because that obviously, you're just saying you're making a new fan who's listening to you on Planet Rock has to pull over and all that. That's amazing. So what point does that happen?
Well, I think from having the experience of doing 3 albums previously in the old band,
which was called Albany Down, by the way. We haven't named that band yet, but yes.
Yeah. So I knew how it works in terms of like you need to have good press and good publicity to get basically to reach people, because otherwise how is anyone going to learn about you? You can do other forms of marketing, but really you should be doing it all. You should be doing PR and digital marketing as well. So when we did the Kickstarter for album 1. We raised funds to get it recorded. We had it recorded, and then it was time to sort out when we're going to release it. And we knew we wanted to get good press. We wanted to get a good PR campaign behind the album because it deserved it. We really loved what we did with that album. So we then found out how expensive that is.
Yeah.
But we all...
Can you name a price, or do you not want to?
I don't want to obviously divulge how much he cost, because that's his business.
Oh yeah, of course.
But anyway, we scraped our pennies together, and we invested in it because we all believed in it. And I think doing that for the first album, the first release, was pivotal in getting noticed quicker. On top of it being a great album, but just gets it out there. So it got us in all the different like blues and rock magazines. It got us on all the different radio stations. It got us obviously on Joe Bonnamassa's radio station. It got us on Planet Rock radio station. So it did wonders for us in terms of spreading that word through a traditional route, which was the route that any band would have taken back in like the 70s and 60s. But now we've got the internet as well, so you got that, and you've also, from that, you can also combine that with digital marketing techniques, which is like your Facebook ads and all that malarkey.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So once you got in the magazines, which is obviously very cool. I mean, we've both read Classic Rock magazine in the past. It's great. Yeah. So to then see yourself in it, like what did that do for you? I mean, personally, before the bands,
Oh, it's just, I've got a whole drawer full of magazines with features and stuff in it.
Wow.
Yeah, I was so proud of everything that, like, getting our photos and interviews and stuff in all these magazines. It was just a really proud moment for all of us. I think we were just exceptionally and then Ed got in Guitarist magazine, and he was over the moon with that as well.
Yeah, I remember you showing me that, and I was just like, wow, that is cool.
It was always exciting running into a W.H. Smith's, knowing that the new issue was out, to go by and you'd go find the one with you in it, and you're like, oh, look, it's me.
Yeah. Very, very cool.
Yeah. Surreal as well, but
must be. Yeah. It's it's taken another step forward,
because it's like you're on one page, and then bloody, I don't know, Guns N' Roses and Led Zeppelin on the next page. It's like, what? But
yeah,
that's pretty crazy.
So you've paid for the PR campaign. You've got on Planet Rock. You're in Classic Rock magazine. You've got a drawer full of your appearances in various magazines. Does it feel like that's making an impact on the fan base at the gigs? Does it feel like there's more people there after that, or is it more of a slow incremental thing over time?
I wouldn't say it happens overnight, especially when you go to like a new area in the country. But it definitely feels like over the last, because we started that campaign in 22 when the album came out, and then by the end of 23 we were able to play 400 cap venue in Portsmouth, for example. So it's felt like incremental like steps along the way, and it has, gigs have sold out better than others in some areas, but like definitely feels like it's growing progressively each month. Feels like it's getting.
Each month it feels that way.
In some ways, yeah, I guess so. Like,
yeah.
I mean, we haven't, obviously last year we didn't have a lot of press go out because there was not a campaign done, so that was all, word of mouth in a way based on the previous year. So, people came to shows in 22. They then bring their friends to the shows in 23, and then they might bring their friends to another show in 23 because they want to come again, sort of thing. So it just built up and up, and then we did, obviously last year we did more festival appearances as well, and I think that also helped bring in people to shows as well, because they came to discovered us at a festival, and then came along to a headline show later in the year, sort of thing.
Okay. So obviously you've been doing all this to promote the band, you're going around doing gigs, and you're doing more in the online space now. How much do you guys focus on creating an identity for the band on the internet, say by making music videos and online content? You say you make you have a Patreon that you run. How much do you do for that, and how much do you just do generally online versus, like, percentage wise, what is it that you do online versus like in person gig wise?
The Patreon, we try and do like behind the scenes stuff every month, or we also try to like share live recordings and demos from gigs, like stuff that like you wouldn't get anywhere else. There's been
the bootlegs.
Yeah, exactly, the bootlegs, and there's like definitely at the moment we're doing lots of vlogs from our recording of the second album on there. So
we'll talk about it in a little bit. But go on.
A lot of that happening at the moment. But what was the question again about the
I was saying, so you obviously when you're a band, you create the in person in gig kind of like identity of this is what the band is. But then when you do your online stuff, you create a different. You're trying to represent the offline identity online. So I'm saying, like, how much do you focus on making video music content versus what you do in person at gigs? What percentage wise, what would you say? Is it 70-30 or 50-50 or
I'd say, I mean, it wasn't a lot of digital content last year other than the music we released, because we did an acoustic EP and we did a live album later in the year, so that obviously gets released onto like your Spotify, but we also released it physically as well, so there's that content for people, and then we did a lot of we posted all the videos from that acoustic EP, which was all filmed in a church. So that was all stuff we filmed the year previous. It's we're always looking for things that we can do online that are fun though as well, like in terms of videos, in terms of behind the scenes stuff as well. There was a really funny video from last year of Chloe explaining Ed's pedals and stuff, and so I think it's important to focus obviously on digital, because there's some people in the world that can't go to a show because they don't live in the same country as you. So so if you want to give them something fun, you got to be creating digital stuff as well.
As well. Okay. So you're not sure of an actual number of what it would be versus what you're doing?
No, I don't know. Like, it's hard to quantify. I guess obviously we're doing way more live. We did like so many shows last year. So probably like 60-40 maybe.
Yeah. Okay.
Maybe.
So you got the Patreon account, and obviously everyone. Well, if you don't know what Patreon is, essentially it's an online service where an artist, or business, has a profile, and you as a fan or a customer can essentially give them extra money, if you so choose to support them. And so, musicians on Patreon, I have a Patreon, you set it up and you put up rewards if people pay a certain amount. So do you know off by heart what your rewards on
Yeah.
Patreon are? Yeah.
Yeah, so like essentially we got 4 tiers. We got a £1.50 a month tier where you just basically get behind the scenes updates. Then you got a £5 tier a month where you get that plus I'm trying to remember now if you get, I think you get all of our music digitally as well, so you can download it from there as MP3s. Then we got a £10 a month tier where you get all of that plus you get demos and bootlegs. And then the £15 a month tier, you get all that, plus you get your name in the credits on physical releases, plus you get a personalised thank you video and a merch discount code. So there's a few other things you can get on the tier, so it's worth checking out. But like, it's a really good, like it's basically a subscription service to the artist.
Yeah.
So you're paying like a very nominal amount. Whatever you can afford, really, and for that you get rewarded with digital goods.
Yeah, digital goods.
Digital goods.
I'd say, how you launch it? How long does it take to get your first Patreon? Is it the same day?
When we launched it, yeah, we got I think a couple that first day. I can't remember exactly how many we got the first.
How did you let people know about it? Do you have like a newsletter?
I think we put it on Facebook. We just shouted about it on socials and then talked about it at gigs and maybe we did. I can't remember if we did a mailing letter on an email or not. Might have done.
Yeah.
And
so, how many patrons do you currently have?
We have got. Well, they actually changed it recently, where people can sign up to Patreon and be a free patron, but they basically don't get anything unless you make something free to view.
Okay.
So it looks like we've got 90 members, but not all of them are paying.
Okay.
I think we've got 60 something paying ones. Yeah.
That's great.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Okay. And so that's just been a gradual thing. More people
Yeah,
adding
it's
to it.
just slowly like built up over the lot. I think we launched it in. I feel like we launched it in 21, maybe, because it might have been around when we were recording. Yeah, it would have been. We would have been recording Life's Machine, and I think we were doing like behind the scenes stuff on there.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's been going like 3 years now, almost.
Okay.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Fantastic stuff. Okay.
Yeah.
Great. Oh, we're blasting through this. Okay. Well, so you've told me about all these different methods you've used for growing the bands.
Yeah.
What's next for growing the band to whatever the next stage looks like? What does the next stage look like, and how do you get there? Because you've climbed different rungs in the ladders quite successfully.
Yeah.
What's the next thing look like, and how'd you get there?
So, well, as I mentioned earlier, we're doing the second album at the moment. It's almost finished. It'll be finished recording in like a week. And then it gets mixed and it gets mastered and it gets manufactured and all that jazz. But then you have the campaign for the album, which needs to go into full swing. So for that, we've gone with a different PR person. We're hopefully going to get a dedicated radio plugger. I don't know who that will be, but hopefully it'll be the one with our top target. But never know, might be someone else.
Great.
And then just coordinating how that goes in terms of like when each single comes out, when the album comes out and all that, and just pushing and trying to get it out there for people to enjoy, I guess. And then tour it. We're going to tour it in the autumn.
Yeah.
Do as many gigs as we can.
When's it come out?
Hopefully in the summer.
There's not a firm release date.
Not a firm release date. So I say this is all part of it, like in terms of in the next, probably by the end of February, I'll have a more clear idea of when everything's happening.
Yeah, maybe that's when we should have done a podcast.
No, it's all good because I'm every day now I'm kind of thinking about everything and like trying to work out when to action certain things throughout the year. I'm kind of like building in my mind a timeline of events almost. But like it's all not set in stone just yet, but I'm constantly thinking about it. And then hopefully the PR campaign, the radio campaign, and hopefully everyone loves the album enough that it's a banging success. and it might take us to the, because I mean, for us, the next level would be to regularly play the 300 to 400 cap venues. Graduate from, so we'd be graduating from like the 100 200 cap venues to double that size essentially. And then if we can do that, then that's gonna be, you know, massive shows for us, more income, more fans coming in, and you know, everyone gets a great rock show. We get to take home a bit more money, hopefully, to put back into the band for the next release. So it's just that continual locomotive, as we will, of the Brave Rival train. Maintain the Brave Rival train.
And so that's one thing we haven't really talked about, and we don't have to get into specifics, but the band has made money. Yeah? Mm-hmm. What's been the biggest money earner for the band? Has it been gigs? Has it been streams online? Has it been merch? Anything else?
It's gigs are the main bread and butter of any band in this day and age, because, like, let's face it, music sales aren't what they used to be, unless you're Taylor Swift. But even if you're Taylor Swift, like, I don't think you're even selling your music; you're just streaming it. So, yeah, gig fees and ticket sales are the biggest earner. After that, it's merch sales. And then after that, it's like other forms of income like Patreon and that. So,
okay,
yeah, gig fees.
It's gig fees at the top.
That's the biggest earner for the band. Yeah.
And do you think that will ever change? That the other elements will pay more? Or
it is something we've talked about, because like we did 86 gigs last year, which is a lot of gigs. That's obviously more than one gig a year. More than 1 gig a week. Sorry.
Yeah.
It was quite intense at times, and like you're away from your loved ones, away from your family and stuff for extended periods of time. But obviously we love gigging, but you kind of want to get to the point where you can do the gigs do the tours, and I think have space in between for being with your loved ones and that. But in those times, you want to be earning still from something. So it's about almost like figuring out where else you can earn a bit extra cash. So that could be from Patreon, it could be from merch sales in between tours, it could be maybe some other form of income I haven't thought of yet.
Yeah.
But yeah. Mainly like that, your Patreon and getting more money from the streams and music sales on the side. If you can increase that, then you don't have to rely so much on gigging, I guess, as a business.
Yeah.
But obviously that's not to say we don't love gigging, because we love gigging.
Yeah. Yeah, and obviously there has been all this growth we've talked about, and so I think a lot of the takeaways here is, you know, play live, play often, you know, try and play to audiences that are into what you're doing, and be personable, talk to people, and once you're ready, take the next stage. You know, get some proper promotion in there, get a PR company involved. And so a lot of this has been, you know, putting thought and energy and money into the right places. Would you say that's right?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Like being strategic with it. And I think every member of the band needs to want it and also be on board with the strategy as well, because like, I mean, that sounds really boring businessy, doesn't it? But it's true though, because like I know, like it's I think you could run into the risk of, like, if you're not reinvesting stuff back into the band, it's never gonna grow, kind of thing, you know? Yeah. That's like any business, really. But
yeah. So do you think you could be at the point you're at now without having put substantial money into it?
No, I don't think so.
No. Okay.
No, because like, I just
that's honest. Yeah.
Honestly, I don't think so, because like we'd probably just end up gigging, doing the same, like we'd be doing like venues that we've done before, and we could do that. We could do like venues that we know will sell out, for example, and just do them forever, which would be fantastic. But like, I think every band, every musician wants to play to an even bigger audience because they get a buzz off it. So
yeah.
So ultimately, you kind of have to reinvest into those other areas to grow it.
Yeah. Okay. Brilliant. And so I got a couple more questions, and then we'll be done.
Yeah.
So you are doing the second album at the moment.
Mm-hmm.
So off the topic of growth of the band as a business, I just want to talk about the growth of the band creatively from album 1 to album 2. So you're in the middle of recording it. Does it really, now you're hearing it back, and it's not just like demo versions, it's real crisp recordings.
Yeah.
I'm guessing you've got versions of the unfinished tracks on your phone, probably.
I do.
Yeah. So does it really feel like, this is the next big step forward creatively for the band, this album? Like you're really you're feeling that?
It feels like an album that's been made with purpose, and that purpose is to say, here we are, we fucking rock. Basically, it's a bit more rocky than the first album. We're really like leaning into that more, and that's not to say we're always going to lean into that, but it's just that's just the sound that we've explored and lent into over the last year, and it's kind of like the music we wanted to play and write. So that's just the way it's gone for this album, and that's what I mean by it. It felt like it's been written with purpose in that way, and. Yeah, it's sounding so good. I can't wait to share it with everyone.
Yeah. So you say it's a far more confident record than the previous one?
I'd say obviously we're more confident as a group in the studio than we were the first time round because we've done that process before, and we're working with the same producer. So there's that confidence, and I just think we got more purpose in terms of we knew exactly how we wanted to sound. We know exactly what we want to do with the songs, and I think it's gonna be all the better for it.
Okay, great. So obviously, as a musician, I love watching kind of behind the scenes of bands in the studio, and learning how they, did things. You look at the classic rock and prog bands of the 60s and 70s and how they're, inventing like the flanger guitar effect by messing with tape and doing crazy stuff like that. And I always think that's one of the best parts of the studio experience is when you've got a lot of the basics down and then you start playing around and experimenting with it. So I'm just curious whether it was the previous album or this one, especially if it's this one because you're right in the middle of it. Is there any experimental stuff that you've done, whether with your part or the rest of the bands?
We've got a keg on this album.
A keg?
Yeah. Donna plays a keg.
Okay.
We were doing percussion, and this particular song, it felt like it needed more like a industrial metallic clang in the middle eight kind of thing, like every fourth beat or whatever.
Okay.
And we're like, we need a keg. So we went to the pub next door and asked them for a keg, and she's like hammering this keg in the song.
Okay.
We've done things like that. We've done trying to think, like I've got for the first time in my recording history, I've put a chorus effect on my bass on one of the songs.
Cool.
Which makes it sound very like 80s, but also not 80s because it's modern, I guess. But
obviously, Joy Division would have used a lot of chorus on their bass guitar.
It's funny enough because that all came about because I watched this video on YouTube of the top 10 worst bass tones, and one of them was a chorus effect on a song, "Don't Stop Believing."
Yeah.
And it's like people have voted this like one of the worst tones ever on a bass. But I was like, you know what, that sounds bloody brilliant. That does. I want that on my album.
Yeah.
So we've done like things like that. Ed's done all sorts of crazy stuff with guitars. The girls are, they're layering up the vocals and layering up the harmonies, and it's just.
So which part are you on now? So you've done all the bass tracking.
Yeah.
So
we're on vocals at the moment.
Vocals at the moment.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then next week, we've got a keyboard / Hammond / piano coming to tickle the ivories.
Tickle the, I love that
and
phrase.
then the biggest thing will be we've got 4 songs that are going to have a string quartet on them.
Okay.
They're coming in next Wednesday to record, and yeah, it's like that was like the big goal of the Kickstarter, was to try and raise enough to do the strings, because we always heard strings on these particular songs.
Okay.
And we haven't done like the classic thing, I think, of doing it just on the slowies. They are on a couple of the slowies, but they're also on a couple of the rockier ones as well.
Yeah. So obviously I mentioned at the start when I was listing the achievements that you had a Kickstarter for this album and that it exceeded expectations. How has that extra money helped with making this album bigger and better? So
it meant that we could go to a studio in Weston-super-Mare called 13 Sound Studios.
Okay.
And it's got this massive, like, well, it's not huge, but it's a big live room, but with a really tall ceiling.
Okay.
So it meant that the drums just sound huge.
Great.
And also the strings are getting recorded in there as well. So that money went towards that. The money's gone towards recording. We're actually going to a studio near Birmingham on Monday to record 3 B-sides live, which will be a totally different, like, I have done it before. We've all been down actually a live session like that in a studio. And it's a very different process, because you kind of you play the song as a band and then you can overdub some extra layers and stuff. But essentially, it's kind of like, it is what it is. It's a live recording of the song.
Do you do that to a metronome or without?
I'm not sure if we are or not yet. We have done some demos to a metronome, but I don't know if we're actually going to use it or not.
Yeah.
We'll find out. I'll probably find out on Monday what Tarrant wants to do.
Yeah. Okay, I didn't know about Weston-super-Mare,
Yeah.
actually. I thought you were doing it in Borden.
No, that's what we did last machine, and actually, as soon as we started planning for this album, Tarrant said to us, Tarrant's our producer, he said to us that, you know, if you can raise the money, I'd like to do the drums at this studio, because whilst the drum sound at Life's Machine was perfectly fine, he feels like he could have done better had he had a different room.
Yeah. How did he record your bass?
Differently this time as well, actually. Last time we mic'd up the Ampeg cab, the 8x10, with my head. This time, just plugged me straight into the DI.
You did straight DI?
Straight DI, yeah.
You didn't record for an amp?
No.
Not on one thing?
No.
How'd you feel about that?
I felt a bit weird about it, but it does sound really good. So Tarrant has done, like, he's got all these, you know, different, I guess, virtual cabs and amps and stuff, and he's been able to manipulate any song to sound, you know, if it needs a bit of fuzz, if it needs a bit of distortion, if it needs the chorus effect. He's got a whole library of amps and effects that we've just been playing around with.
Yeah.
And it does sound really nice. So I've just trusted him on it.
Great, okay.
Yeah.
Interesting.
I know, yeah.
Yeah.
It wasn't how I envisioned doing it, but I sort of just went with it. I was like, well, this is kind of like the modern thing that people do, isn't it? So, yeah.
It can be done.
It's like one band that we know, Cardinal Black, apparently, for their first album, the guitarist, he's a really amazing guitarist, he basically recorded all of his guitars in the same way as that. He didn't even use an amp.
Wow.
He just did it all digitally, apparently, in his bedroom.
Okay. I've seen photos on Facebook of Ed's setup, and he used 2 different amps.
So he had the Victory amp that's his, and we also had the Marshall that's at the studio. Depending on the song, they would flick between the 2.
Okay.
And different guitars and everything for different tones, in the search of Tonehenge.
Tonehenge, yeah. Okay. Well, that's fantastic. That's really interesting to hear the behind the scenes on that. I'm sure. I'm sure it's going to sound great.
Yeah.
And I look forward to hearing it. Sink or Swim.
Yeah.
That's my favourite one I've heard so far.
That's the one with the chorus.
That's the one with the chorus effect on it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting.
I might have to show you.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. We'll do that afterwards. Anyway, I got one last question, and then we're going to wrap up. Billy, obviously, thank you for doing the podcast with me today. It's been really interesting, and I'm sure people listening along who are musicians and wanting to take the next step will find what you've had to say really interesting, because it's insightful. It's interesting, all those little steps that added up and built.
Funnily enough, I spent most of this afternoon chatting with I won't name them, but I was chatting to a guy from another band who was just asking me for advice on terms of because they also want to set their band up as a business.
Yeah.
And I talked him through what we did, and it feels good to help people out. It feels good to give advice, and I'm always up for helping anyone that wants a leg up in the industry, or some advice or whatever.
I found that last year I kind of had a semi-revelation to myself. I thought about it. I thought, as human beings, we're all very selfish creatures, but we all want to get, but actually it's always more satisfying to give. Yeah, I find.
No, I agree.
I definitely feel that. So before the last question, is there anything else that we haven't mentioned here that has helped grow the bands to where you are now that we haven't mentioned?
Just how good my bass playing is. It helped the band so much.
Yeah, it's helped the band so much. Yeah. We were talking before I switched the microphone on that last year. Both me and Billy both got a new white Fender. Me obviously with my Stratocaster, and Billy with it's a jazz bass.
It's a Fender Ultra American Jazz 5.
Yes.
Yeah.
And that we need to
white.
Get these two together for a play date at some date. Someday soon. Okay, cool. So final question of the podcast. It's more of a thought experiment.
All right.
The idea is that the band's been together for 5 years, maybe more. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, 2019 to now.
Yeah.
What's that?
That's 5 years.
Yeah.
5 years. Okay, so the band's been together for around 5 years now. So say the band was starting over completely, fresh. No fans, no songs, no nothing, but you knew everything.
Well, I knew
you knew where you'd get to.
Right.
Okay. So if you could go back in time, essentially, to yourself in 2019, and talk to the bands, what would you do? How would you start out if you knew where you'd get to? What would be the thing you'd go back and say, okay, this is how you need to grow this. This is how you need to do this or that, or would you just let it be as organic as it was before?
I'd probably do nearly everything exactly the same, but I would also have tried to get. I think I would have tried to do Facebook ads and digital ads earlier in the process. Maybe because I'd have the knowledge of how to do that from back then, or we would as a band. Yeah. As we sort of learnt that as we've gone along, and I also would have invested from the start. Extra money in radio plugging, and for anyone that doesn't know, a radio plugger is essentially someone that you that will take your songs to the national radio stations and say you should play this, and they usually trust the radio plugger enough to go okay, and it's as simple as that. It kind of is pay to play, but it's the only way to really knock the door down and get through to national radio in some regards. Sometimes they do the producers might pick up on you, but
okay. Yeah. So you do more online promotion earlier on, essentially.
And the radio plugger is the only other thing and that's kind of what my big goal is this year, is to get a bit more radio play.
Okay. Yeah. Fantastic. That's great. Yeah. And more magazines for the draw.
Yeah, more magazines for the draw, yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so speaking of plugging, is there anything you want to plug right here at the end of the podcast?
I would just say a couple of things. You can support Brave Rival. Find all about us on socials at Brave Rival Band, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube. Obviously, Patreon is patreon.com/Brave Rival. And I also think you should go to YouTube and support Scott's YouTube channel as well, because he's doing a video a day, and that is a Herculean effort.
It's been a lot of work.
Yeah, and he's he's doing some great stuff on there. So go check that out as well. That's youtube.com/
The Scott Freeman Music.
Scott Freeman Music.
Yes.
The Scott Freeman Music.
The Scott Freeman, because Scott Freeman Music was already taken back in 10 years ago, whenever I picked it.
Well, you're the Scott Freeman, so yeah.
Anyway, we'll take it that way. I'm the Scott Freeman.
Yeah, you are.
Okay, brilliant. Okay, well, thank you, Billy. Good luck with the rest of recording album 2. Does album 2 have a name?
It does, but I cannot reveal.
You cannot reveal. Okay, we'll just say...
After the mic's turned off, I can reveal.
Okay, cool. Okay, fair enough. Okay, brilliant. Okay, thanks for listening, guys. Again, subscribe to the channel. Go check out Brave Rivals Music on Spotify or wherever you get your music from. And we'll see you later.
Stay funky.